It's over. Time to say it again, Boston. Anything's possible. The Celtics are NBA champions.
Jayson, just what's it feel like to finally be a champion?
Oh my God. Oh my God. It's been a long journey. It's been a long journey.
These NBA finals may have seemed boring, but don't let that distract you from what the Boston Celtics just accomplished. Despite the pressure of coming up short in previous years, despite the noise, despite the memes, despite seemingly everyone waiting for them to slip up just once this postseason, they didn't.
Jaylen Brown with the flush.
The Boston Celtics went 16-3, and quite frankly took care of every opponent without breaking a sweat. So I think it's time we finally had the conversation. Where do these Celtics rank among some of the greatest, most dominant teams we have ever seen?
This team is one of the greatest teams of all time, and I don't feel like people are saying it.
I think it's time we looked into some numbers.
But these Celtics, statistically, they're in the same class as the 2017 Warriors.
And how we now look at the legacies of both Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum. Because this truly does change everything. Unfortunately though, we can't answer any of these questions until we address the elephant in the room. You see, a few weeks ago, I was scrolling Twitter and I couldn't help but notice there was a running theme.
Thank you.
You gotta dodge some bullets. I mean, you look at the Knicks got injured, you got Joel Embiid getting injured, you got Jimmy Butler getting injured, you get Donovan Mitchell missed the last 2 games of the series, and now Tyrese Halliburton goes down.
Yet, like many other Boston narratives, I couldn't simply just dismiss this as hating. Because to a certain extent, it was true. I mean, the Celtics quite literally hadn't faced a fully healthy team until these NBA finals. So I decided to do some investigating. Was this really the easiest run to the finals of all time? I was in luck because it didn't take long before I found a statistical analysis done by The Athletic, who managed to tally up how many games a given team has avoided coming up against an all-star caliber player in a given playoff run. Some of the, let's just say, easier runs to the finals we've seen this century include the 2017 Warriors, who played an injured Kawhi Leonard 3 times, the 2024 Dallas Mavericks, who played an injured Kawhi Leonard 6 times, and the 2021 Phoenix Suns, who played an injured Kawhi Leonard 6 times. But as you can see, the 2024 Boston Celtics topped the list, evading all-star caliber players in 64% of their playoff games. Most notably, Jimmy Butler, who missed 5 games, as well as Donovan Mitchell and Tyrese Halliburton, who missed 2 games apiece. So yes, the Boston Celtics have had one of, if not the easiest run to the finals since the turn of the century. But more importantly, they had it easy because they made it easy for themselves. I mean, what's the point of being a number 1 seed if you don't get somewhat of an easy schedule and a little bit of luck along the way? After all, the Celtics didn't just come out of nowhere. They've been terrorizing teams since October last year, and you quite literally have to go back to the 2013 Miami Heat to find an Eastern Conference team with a better regular season record than the 2024 Boston Celtics. So let's look at some numbers. Just how good was this Celtics team? And how do they measure up against some of the most dominant teams in NBA history? Well, this graph showcases those all-time great teams, with win percentage on the y-axis and point differential on the x-axis. We'll be able to pinpoint teams who didn't just win a lot of games, but won them convincingly. Now, for context, here are some of the worst teams of all time. The Charlotte Bobcats, who managed to win only 10% of their games in 2011, and the 1993 Dallas Mavericks, who racked up an unfathomable negative 1,000 point differential. Remarkably, there are 3 teams from this past season alone who find themselves among some of the worst teams of all time. Yes, we witnessed some atrocious basketball this season. Anyway, that's besides the point, because our main focus is up in this top right quadrant, which showcases some of the most dominant seasons we have ever seen. Teams like the 2013 Miami Heat, led by LeBron James, the 2009 Lakers, led by Kobe Bryant, and Tim Duncan's 2014 San Antonio Spurs. The absolute cream of the crop, however, lies even further up the chart. The 1971 Milwaukee Bucks, led by Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, the 1972 Lakers, led by the late great Jerry West, a few notable seasons from the Bulls and Warriors' respective dynasties, and the 2024 Boston Celtics, who now become one of 5 teams in NBA history to have outscored their opponents by an average of 10 points a game. But it gets even better, because the Celtics didn't just become the 9th team ever to lose only 3 playoff games in a title run. They didn't just join the 2017 Warriors as the only teams ever to have had a 20-point lead on 50 separate occasions. They didn't just have 15 more wins than any other team this season, but they had the most 50, the most 40, 30, and 25-point wins in NBA history in a single season. Whatever way you look at it, whatever way you try and spin it, you just can't deny it. The Celtics dominated the entire league from start to finish. And so what did we then do? We started talking dynasty, like we did with the Lakers, the Bucks, and the Nuggets. So you'd be forgiven for thinking, here we go again with the dynasty talk. But this time around, it might not be that crazy. You see, ever since either of us can remember, the NBA has been synonymous with dynasties, such to a point that we often associate eras with successful teams. Aside from the 1970s, when the NBA merged with the ABA, the NBA has never gone a decade without a single franchise winning at least 3 championships. Not the 50s, not the 60s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, or the 2010s. In other words, we are entering unprecedented territory. 6 straight years, 6 different NBA champions. If history tells us anything, this is not going to go on for much longer. In fact, if the Boston Celtics don't repeat as champions next season, this will be the longest streak without a repeat champion in NBA history. Now sure, there are reasons for this, like the collective bargaining agreement, which restricts top-end teams from retaining players, and the simple fact that the league is just more talented. But if you look at how effortless this season was for the Boston Celtics, if you look at a 26-year-old Jayson Tatum and a 27-year-old Jaylen Brown, if you look at the sheer analytical dominance and how this team stacked up against the 96 Bulls, the 2001 Lakers, and the 2017 Warriors, all of which were NBA dynasties, you just can't help but think this might be the beginning of something special. At the end of the day though, dynasty or no dynasty, this championship alone changes everything. It changes the way we remember Al Horford. It changes our perception on previous Celtic failures. All of a sudden, they are looked upon not as failures, but as steps to success. It changes the way we now look at Joe Mazzulla, from an interim head coach out of his depth to one of the top coaches in the NBA. It changes how we appreciate Brad Stevens, who came so close as a head coach, but is now responsible for assembling one of the greatest rosters ever as a general manager. Most of all though, it changes how we view Mr. Jaylen No Left Hand Brown and Mr. Jayson What Does He Even Do Tatum. You can say what you want about these two, but you can't say they're not NBA champions.